So the last 7 days or so from the filming of this, maybe a little bit more than 7 days, I've had the good, I've had the bad, and I've had everything in between. And I don't even know what's in between at this point anymore. Um, just been a whirlwind of emotions, of things to do, and ups and downs, and it's hard to explain sometimes. But I really didn't have a chance to hit record for several different reasons. I just wasn't motivated, but I'm forcing myself, and I feel pretty good today. Um, was busy. I mean, and again, I've talked to you about that book I'm doing, the ebook for learning how to play guitar. For those, over 50, or not even over 50, but it's just that you're never too old to learn to play, that sort of thing. So I finally been working on that. I've been pushing myself too hard on that in a way because I want it to be perfect as I'm typing it out here. I got my laptop right here, right? Um, but I've also kind of been realizing just sit down and type, and whatever comes out, you could always fix it later. Get the thoughts out. And usually the thoughts that I have that are actually pretty decent, I'm in the car. So it's like, so you lose them after a while. So I just kind of sat down and just started, I'll do a paragraph here, a paragraph there, and that's great. I don't need to do it all in one shot. I'm trying to hit that 5-run home run, which is never going to happen. It doesn't exist. So I kind of slowly started to realize that. Been very busy, consistent with the guitar channel, the music channel, Richie Flip 6-string fun. I've actually gotten very, not that I've gotten very, but I've been driving myself more into a schedule where I know I want to release one song every Sunday, a new song in particular for a lesson, and then maybe some compilations during the week and a couple shorts in between there. So I've actually been doing my filming like I'm doing here for this particular channel. The other one I've been doing it in batches. I'll take an hour, I'll take 2 hours if I have to, and I'll crank them out, and I'll just kind of take it from there. And because of that, I have content scheduled now on that channel uh, till the end of August, going into September, I guess. So it's a lot up front, but you get some breathing room at the end there. And I've done it before, and then of course you fall off track there, and the wheels come off and all that. But I've stuck to it. Actually, as you sit here, I'm writing notes out for more songs. Um, it's just kind of putting me in a better place. Again, we're getting older here, and it's kind of tough to do things. The energy level isn't there sometimes, and I'm just kind of kicking myself in the rear to get things going because we are much close. My age, early 50s, we're much closer to the finish line than we are to the starting point. Reality, fact of life. Deal with it, or just go home with your ball. And I don't want to go home. I want to get some things done here, and it seems to be working in my favor a little bit, just in terms of peace of mind, in terms of just getting things done, being productive. Look, and I've told everyone this: 9 to 5, part-time gig, gig with the band Neon Flannel. We're out there if you want to check us out on our socials. Shameless plug, but hey, go check us out. If you're in the Charlotte area, we play out. We're actually playing out pretty regularly. We played out last night. I've got some things on my other socials that aren't on YouTube, like Buy Me a Coffee with the band and myself, and just kind of throwing some things there that you wouldn't find on the social, just to be a little more fun, just kind of the fun stuff, behind the scenes and stuff like that. So, that's out there. I just have to tie it all together. And I'm sure, like a lot of us out there, we have so many different ideas. I want to do that. I want to do this. Thoughts start to creep into my mind, at least. It's like where you realize there's so much I want to do, I'm never going to get to it. And I had a video on that 2 weeks ago, maybe, and I never posted it in general about that type of topic because I started kind of getting into this funk, and it took me a while to get out of it. And I went back and looked at it today. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense now because it's not even fresh. So I kind of nixed that. I had a short I nixed. So it was just a matter of ripping the Band-Aid off and doing it again. That's kind of what this is all about. So, but one of the things I talked about was uh, the things that you realize, I always wanted to do this, but it's never going to happen, which is kind of sad to think about, but it could be true. And I don't want to think like that all the time in terms of maybe places I wanted to visit, or places, or buying a house at one point. I mean, the housing market everywhere is just going through the roof. I think there's other things I would want to invest in other than a house at this point. Talking about it, behind the scenes here, and I think it's a better move. Maybe getting an RV and traveling. When you get a little bit older, having that freedom. Pros and cons to anything any of us decide, but it's just something a little bit different, and maybe it just kind of keeps the excitement going as far as the sense of adventure. I've always had one, always will have one, I think. And it's a matter of just doing it. So that's kind of where I was coming from with this one. And then again, talking to you a little bit about here and just, what's been going on. The last week it's like I said, it was up and down. It was crazy. Busy with work, which is a great thing. The band has been busy, which has been great. We're trying to learn some new songs. I mean, it's hard to rehearse sometimes too. Just with just the two of us. So we've got our rehearsal space that we use. But when you're trying to learn new songs, it's a matter of just taking the 10 minutes to do something. Sit down with the guitar. I just need to sit down with a guitar for 20 minutes as I'm watching TV. And just play. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. Just play. Get the fingers moving. And that makes a big difference. And it made a big difference for the gig we had last night here in the Charlotte area. Need to do more of that. So the plan is for tonight. What am I going to do tonight? Well, it's about 8 o'clock p.m. right now, Eastern time. I'm going to finish this. It'll get released at another point, maybe later this week, over the weekend. And then I'm going to sit down and write, even if it's just a paragraph, 15 minutes, just get some things out. It could be a different subject that I was working on for the book. Maybe the first part of it I wrote was why I'm doing this. And then for the next piece of it is, well, here are the chords we should work on. And here's, just different things, just to have something there. And then I can always piece it together. And then at some point create some diagrams. And I have a software that does that, neck diagrams. And it's just simple stuff, but I just have to, I think the problem is when I have so much going on up here, everything shuts off. It could be the simplest of projects I need to do. And it could be 10 super duper simple things. But because it's 10 or because it's 20, the body just shuts down and it's like, I'm not going to do it. I'm trying to reprogram myself to do that. I want to continue reading, a little bit every night. But there's, again, so many different things. You start to just get a little overwhelmed. So we're working with that. I'm going to just, it's getting to the point right now where it's like, if I get to it, I get to it. And I'm not talking about my projects, but things outside of here. People needing things. The hurry up and wait folks that need something right away. And then when you do something, it's, we don't need it right now. Okay. I'm not going to do that anymore. That sort of thing. Okay. So that's kind of where I am with everything. Not much of an update, but it's an update. It's just going to keep me motivated to do certain things. And I think if I just see little, you move the needle just a little bit. Again, I'm going to write tonight. Even if it's just 15 minutes, I will write a paragraph, and it'll be something. Look, when it comes to a full-time gig, even part-time gigs, I don't think most of us are doing what we want to do anyway, and that's okay. It's just the way it is, right? We got bills to pay. We try to do the best we can. But it's just a matter of now. Look, if I had my dream, what would I want to be doing, to find the perfect job? Well, something would be music related, or it would be writing. I'd love to just sit down and write. I've self-published my first book about 2 years ago. It's called Meeting Uncle Jake. Look, you can find it on Amazon. I mean, that was a big thing for me, self-publishing my first book, only book so far. But man, what a bucket list item that was. And I was able to do that. And they got a lot of good reviews. People read it and they think it's great. And it's both friends, family, and people who haven't known that long or at all have read it, and it's been received fairly well. It's it was fun. It was something different. It was serious, family related, and then it had a nice comical side to it, I think. And I pulled in from different parts of my family that I knew over the years, from stories my father told me to just my own personal experiences, right? And seeing pictures of the old family hanging on the wall. Again, look, we've got our phones and we take a picture of something. We could take 100 pictures of something throughout the day, and that's kind of normal. Back then, maybe somebody took a picture once a year, for some type of family event. Everything was done on film, and I've got a whole box of old photos I would love to share one day so you guys can see some of them. My grandparents, at a supper club in Manhattan, with their friends all dressed, suit and tie and the dresses. So interesting times, both then and now, I guess, right? So, like I said, the good, bad, and everything in between, we're rolling forward. All right? I'm out. Later.